rabbis and agency executive directors. Our format for this evening will be that myself, Eric Stillman, as CEO of our Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation of Nashville and Middle Tennessee, will serve as moderator, and I'll be asking each one of the agency and congregation representatives to give a 2-minute update, a status on their respective agency or congregation, and then we're going to go to questions, and we look forward to an interactive experience with you. To tell you who is on the panel, I will let you know that we have with us Rabbi Shifton from the Temple, Leslie Sachs from the Gordon JCC, Rabbi Kulik from West End Synagogue, Pam Kellner from Jewish Family Service, Rabbi Teitel from Chabad, Daniela Pressner from Akiva School, Rabbi Saul from Shereth Israel, Ari Dubin from Vanderbilt Hillel, Mindy Drongowski from Congregation Micah, and Rabbi Shlomo from Vanderbilt Chabad. So, to begin, as our moderator, I would like to first ask Rabbi Shifton, whose idea was that we have this community town hall to get us started by giving an update for the temple. Rabbi Shifton's muted.
I'm unmuted now.
Please
What's
proceed.
that? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Eric, thank you for convening this evening. We have been amazed at how quickly we have learned to move everything we offer to a virtual ability and array of services. We found that we have been able to sustain community, and actually our numbers have been greater at certain programs and services than they usually are. And as a staff, they have really pushed our creativity, our imagination, our enthusiasm in very different and exciting ways. We are developing a clergy caravan where we are going to each religious school family to visit with them safely, with social distance, and let them know we are thinking about them. On the other side of the life cycle, we are reaching out to our seniors. We're not doing as profound a job as Jewish Family Service is doing, but we're trying to do it nonetheless. And we are going back to work as a voluntary basis beginning next week in person as a staff. We've spent a lot of time with the protocols, and so we're going to our own stage one, where you can come and work if you want as a staff. It gives us the opportunity to try out masks and acrylic panels of separation, very small staff meetings, use of the workroom and other facilities. And we didn't know when we began this enterprise a few months ago that unfortunately it looks like we as a state and we as a nation are peaking again, even in the summer months. So when we will be fully open, we have absolutely no idea. And for better or worse, I would place a bet that our High Holy Day services will be virtual, and that too will be a novel enterprise for us. So that's what I can share from the temple in 2 minutes or less.
Thank you, Rabbi Shifton. We appreciate it very much. Now, Leslie Sachs, on behalf of the Gordon JCC, can you update us, please?
I've unmuted, okay. So we closed the JCC on March 15th and quickly pivoted to bringing the JCC to your living room with lots of online programming, early childhood, fitness classes, even water exercise classes out of the water, camp songs and virtual field trips for our kids. And then once the mayor said that we could reopen in phase 2, we had been planning for about a month, but not quite as early as we were told we could open. We opened at 50% capacity on June the 3rd. And the main pieces of our mitigation efforts for COVID were based on 4 factors. One was social distancing, spreading out as much as we can and limiting access to different age groups as much as we can. The other was requiring everyone to wear a mask or face covering when they're in our building. Then we increased sanitation and hygiene methods. We even have an electrostatic sprayer that we bring in and spray that captures air particles. And then we are screening for symptoms and temperature at the door before anyone enters. So we feel like we have done every step we can to try to provide the safest environment. We put in a reservation system that limits our capacity, but hopefully prevents people standing at our door waiting in line too much. And that's actually going much more smoothly than we thought. There's certain things like lap swimming that are in limited supply and extreme demand that we're working out those tweaks of those details. Early childhood and camp, early childhood opened last week, camp opened this Monday. I would say we're about 50 to 60% of capacity, so much smaller groups. Everything is in groups of 10, and those 10 classrooms, or as the camp world calls them, households, don't interchange with other households. We've even divided the auditorium into separate dining rooms so that every group has their own space. We now have individual portions and all our food for lunch, so it's not family style. So we've tried to make every effort that we could with that. Fitness centers allowing 18 people in at a time, and we have hour and 15-minute shifts with time for cleaning in between. We're continuing to serve our seniors virtually or online. We offer a Tuesday lecture series, a Thursday concert, and we're delivering about 80 meals a week to seniors on Thursday as well. And then a lot of our fitness classes are remaining online. We may start a yoga class in person next week because there's not a lot of heavy breathing with yoga, and so there's not as much chance of transmission. And we anticipate staying in this phase with these limitations probably through the end of June and part of July.
Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate the update. Next, I'd like to ask Rabbi Joshua Kullak from West End Synagogue for an update, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having all of us together to share some updates. As with every other organization in town, we closed mid-March. We moved Minyan in the evening to virtual Minyanim. We have done that for the last 2 months and some. We moved every class, every meeting, school, religious school online. And as the temple reported, we were also successful at bringing same people, new people to those programs and to figuring out how to address the concerns and the needs of our members. We have reached to families in our religious school. We reached to our seniors as well. We are now trying to pay visits, social distancing and with every precaution, but to create moments in which we can be outdoors with a couple of our members. And at the moment, we are developing protocols for the reopening of our congregation when the time comes, hopefully beginning with Shabbat morning services, and then we will go from there. It will depend on how the numbers shift in our city and in our state, but we are still hopeful that we will be able to provide some sort of limited services under the same roof. and that will allow us to do some of that for the high holidays, but remains to be seen how that is going to be. Probably, if we can, we will do both in presence and virtual for the high holidays and for Shabbat whenever we open, but we are developing those protocols as we speak.
Thank you, Rabbi Kolek. We appreciate the update. Next, I'd like to ask Pam Kellner from Jewish Family Service for an update, please.
Good evening. Thank you for being with us this evening. I wanted to share with all of you tonight how JFS has pivoted to serve the needs of the community during this pandemic. And my request to you tonight is, if you or if someone that you know is struggling, that you help to spread the word about these services. This is why JFS exists. Every single thing that we do is confidential, and there's no shame in asking for help. This is why Jewish Family Service is here for the community, and these are unprecedented times, and we're all in this together. So please, if you know of anybody or yourself that needs assistance, please listen to these services and spread the word. So there are 3 areas of service that I just want to let you know about. The first one is financial assistance. We have emergency financial assistance, which is able to help a family that's in crisis with basic needs, things like rent, utilities, food assistance. Again, basic needs in times of crisis that they can't pay their bills. If someone is struggling with food security, we have our kosher food box program, which is supplemental in nature, designed to feed a family for an entire week of meals. With the start of COVID, we've shifted from clients actually coming into our offices for their kosher food boxes to shipped. So we are actually delivering that to people's homes. Next is mental health. These are very trying times for all of us, and different people have different needs when it comes to mental health. So we've taken an approach to give different options depending on what people respond to. The first is traditional counseling. We've moved to a HIPAA compliant platform, so everything is perfectly confidential and you don't have to worry about any security there. We accept insurance, and also we offer a sliding scale for people who are unable to pay, so that ensures that anybody can access counseling regardless of their ability to pay. A new program that we started to address mental health needs, and it doesn't actually have to be mental health, is what we're calling free 20-minute conversations with a social worker. And during these 20 minutes, you can talk to them about whatever is causing you anxiety, whether it's identifying resources or expanding your support systems. You drive the conversation, and it's just an outside ear to help you navigate a problem that you're having. We recently launched an anxiety support group, which meets every Wednesday from noon to 1. And last but certainly not least, as Rabbi Shifton alluded to, our senior services. From day one of shutdown, that was our priority, was focusing on our seniors who are the most isolated and can't get out of their homes. We started with a telephone reassurance program. We're up to over 65 seniors who get a call at least once, many times twice a week from a volunteer. And those volunteers are their first point of contact. If they realize that there's a need for additional services, they'll refer them back to our social workers who will help to resolve that need. We've expanded to a very sweet program called Pen Pals, where youngsters and also adults in our community are actually writing letters back and forth with a senior, which is really nice. And we're just starting to do what we're calling porch visits with some of our older adults in the community who are really, really feeling the effects of this. They're perfectly safe, very distant, both wearing masks, and they've been really life-saving in a way. And that's it for us right now. Thank you. And spread the word, please, if there is somebody in need in the community, to give us a call.
Thank you, Pam. We appreciate the update very much. Next, I'd like to ask Rabbi Tachtel from Chabad to give us an update, please.
Sure. Firstly, thank you, Eric, for this opportunity. We have a very unique community that since this whole COVID era started, with the encouragement of Rabbi Shifton, the community leaders have been meeting every 2 weeks on the phone in the morning with the rabbis and the agency directors, which really kept the leadership of the Nashville community as a cohesive unit. So this that we're doing here for the community now is unique, but at the same time, it's important for the community to know that all the agency directors and the rabbis have been corresponding through and talking on the phone or Zoom at least once every other week, which I think that shows something that we have a very special community. Leadership of Nashville community is very unique and special. When this whole thing started, we realized that people are going to be turning to towards spiritual needs and the spiritual quest more than throughout the whole year, because when there's challenges in life, that's when people are searching. So we decided, instead of cutting back, we really need to go into high gear. And we revamped everything we do. We got new people involved, and we started offering Zoom programs almost every day of the week, not just in prayer and in learning and in cooking classes and in emotional and mental health. Almost every day of the week besides Shabbat, we were offering different things, and we saw literally hundreds of people that have tuned in either on Facebook or through Zoom, and people we never met before, people we knew, but people were searching, and we tried to fill that need and void. So in addition to the Zooms that were being offered every day, some twice a day with our expanded team of people, we felt that we took upon ourselves every Friday for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks since Pesach was over. We had a team, people want to volunteer, people were home. So we had volunteers go out every single week to about 25 homes and bring some challah and chicken soup. We called it chicken soup and challah for the quarantine soul. And over the last few weeks, we've literally met over close to 200 families that have reached out to us. Some of them were home alone. They said, we heard about this, and can you just come out? And it's been amazing on both the people that are receiving and the people that are professionals, lawyers, doctors that couldn't go to work. And they said, we're young, we want to come out. And amazing to see how many true volunteer state spirits over the last few months. In addition to that, there were families that we knew that couldn't go out. So we don't have boxes of food, but we had dinners prepared, and dinners were prepared to various families, people that we knew that couldn't get out. We followed the rules of Nashville, and when Nashville opened up, we waited until phase 2. I discussed it with professional medical leaders, discussed it with Leslie Sachs to know what pace the JCC is going, and we decided to have a soft opening on Shavuot, which was the first time we opened up. We put up a tent in the outside so meetings can be done in a safer manner with social distancing, and we're only allowed to have up to 25 people on Shavuot. It was a very emotional gathering beyond the Torah reading and prayer, just for people to see people. It was like people haven't seen people before. It was literally a moving and emotional ceremony. And this past Shabbat, we started up with regular minyans. There's a challenge, and it is hot outside. 95-degree prayer with a prayer shawl and a talit is not the easiest thing to do. But there are some people who want to come out, and we hopefully soon, as things lighten up, maybe we'll be able to move inside. But the reason we're doing this is there is a demographic in the community that feel the younger people that want to get out a bit, and with social distancing, they're just, it's starting, decline, sorry. With social distancing, it's hard for people to emotionally stay home. So we're giving the people who feel safe the opportunity to come out. It's the same with our preschool. We decided last week to open up with, there's a lot of rules, and children have to have their temperature, children have to have their temperature taken daily. They have their temperature, and the parents fill out a form. And there's a lot of safety regulations put in place. I want to thank Leslie Sachs for her guidance on this. And took in the beginning, only 50% of the children came. By now we're up to 80%, and slowly but surely things are getting back closer to where they were. There are a lot of people who are still not coming, but we know we're going to get there sometime soon. We feel overall the main thing is to help people feel calm, to help people know that they're not alone. And a big part is reaching out to people like we all do as professionals, and to tell them that we can't control the outcome of things, but we can control how we think about things, and we can control just how we can control how we are going to respond to the circumstances that take place. So my suggestion to all those that are watching, again, we don't know what the future holds for us. We don't know how the outcomes are going to be. But one thing is in our power, how we look at things and how we think about things. So let us try to create that positive energy spirit. There are many rabbis and agency directors that are here to guide you and support you, and hopefully look forward to having this meeting in the future in person, not just on Zoom. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Tachtel. And now I would like Daniela Pressner from Akiva School to please give us an update.
Thank you so much. So we quickly had to pivot from being in school in person to creating an online experience for our students. We took 1 week off so that we could really prepare our teachers through professional development, through thinking through together what the best opportunities would be for our children, and also for our parents, because we knew that many of our parents would be working full-time from home, and most of our parents actually have 2 working parents at home. So that meant that we knew that our children needed to be cared for and loved and nurtured in the same way that they would be at school in their experience at home. Over that 1 week period, we tested and trained and got all of our teachers and our children ready. We had some soft launches that week to make sure that all the technology was working. And then we officially launched that next Monday morning, Akiva Live. And we had school from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. every single day, and heard from parents and from children, both in surveys and one-on-one calls, to really hear how it was going, what was going on. But throughout the whole process, our main focus was really to look at both what are the academic needs that our children have at this time, how are we going to be able to serve them in the online platform just as well as we would in person. And also, just as important, really, what are their psychological, social, spiritual needs? And our goal was really to be able to look at this whole child so that we could really give a huge hug around every single child and every single parent in the experience. I can say that I think the experience was really eye-opening for everybody. We were really nervous, really overwhelmed by what we thought could happen or would happen, but the families really came together in an amazing way. The faculty was so ready and with it and on it every single day. Our board was incredibly supportive, met weekly to make sure that we knew what we were doing every single week. And really the flexibility of the community to kind of move and change as was needed, I think, was what was most impressive. I think the second part of this was that this did not happen alone. Along with the parents and the faculty and the board, really the support of the entire community was so felt. From the very start, immediately, the Federation reached out, multiple people from the Federation, how can we help, what can we do? Almost every single congregation reached out personally, whether they sent a check or whether they led tefillah for our kids on a regular basis every single morning, or whether they were sending in donations or food cards. Really, the way that every organization reached out was so loving and so nurturing to not just me, but the entire Akiva community. And I can't thank everybody enough for that. Now we're thinking about what our next phase is going to be. I'm actually going to be watching what happens at camp and kind of looking and learning from the wisdom of the different camps in town to really understand what's going well, what would we need to tweak in the Akiva environment. Our goal is to be able to hopefully open with very clear precautions in place at the start of the year. But again, we're watching how Nashville unfolds, and obviously want to do what's best for every single family and the entire Nashville community and ultimately the world. So thank you for this opportunity, and really just thank you to everyone out there for the incredible support and the outpouring of love that has been shared with the Akiva community. It does not go unnoticed, and it is so appreciated.
Thank you, Daniela. And now I would like to ask Rabbi Saul from Sheriff Israel if he would give us an update, please.
I think we at Share Israel really stand in awe of everyone's efforts and programming in the last 2 months. And it's really been great watching to see what the synagogues and JCCs and other agencies and JFS have done for our community. We did some limited Zoom programming and some videos and phone outreach and some packages, but it really felt like it feels like it wasn't enough. And so we're very excited that we're starting to open very slowly and cautiously with our own COVID protocol. We've had the minions for about 3 weeks. We've had modified Shabbats with limited attendance and no children, and this will be our 3rd Shabbat. We're also doing outdoor programming with a tent in Elmington Park for families and others, and we've resumed visiting seniors, shut-ins, and people who are sick in their homes and their care facilities. And we look forward to continuing.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Saul. And now if Ari Dubin from Vanderbilt Hillel could give us an update, please.
Thank you, Eric. First, on a personal note, I want to say how much pride and admiration I have for our community's visionary response to the challenges over these last months. When times were tough, we came together, and I'm so very grateful for the partnership, support, and guidance of all our synagogues and agencies that they have offered our community. We may have been physically separated from one another, but there were constant opportunities for us to come together. While many in the Vanderbilt community have had direct experience with COVID, either personally or through members of their family, our students have experienced this crisis in very different ways. Hillel has been focused on ways we can maintain a connection to students as we continue to provide innovative ways for them to access both Judaism and our community. While those of us in Nashville often feel our fellow Nashvillians are far away, students found themselves separated even further. Our students responded to the challenges of remote learning with their usual determination and drive. They found creative ways to experience Shabbat, Passover, and stay connected to each other through games and online programs. The joy and love they have for one another shone through every interaction, and it was a privilege to watch and belong to such a strong community. Hillel staff played a critical role in ensuring students had the tools to accomplish this. We innovated our way towards new strategies to connect students, often on a weekly basis. Last semester was truly one in which Vanderbilt Hillel, which up to now has been defined by our physical space, was truly reimagined. Daily Zoom events, weekly Shabbat services, regular podcasts, and social media videos kept our students feeling like a community. As with the rest of the world, there are far more questions than answers about what Vanderbilt will look like in the fall. But the students and staff of Hillel will continue to provide our community with the tools and opportunities to strengthen their ties to Judaism and each other.
Thank you, Ari. We appreciate that update. Next, I'd like to ask Mindy Drongowski from Congregation Micah to give us an update, please.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone tonight. So like everyone else, Micah's doors have been closed since the middle of March. And we've put a task force together, and it's assembled of professional, lay leadership, legal, and medical professionals. And we're meeting regularly to assess where both Davidson and Williamson County are with regard to reopening. What the data is telling us about the health and safety of doing so, and ultimately what's right for Micah. At this time, as of this past Monday, our Micah Children's Academy has reopened at half capacity, and the MCA has implemented all of the requisite precautions to protect the health and safety of our kids and our faculty and our families. We are looking forward to having more kids returning in July, and then even more so in August. We have been offering a robust menu of online and virtual programming, including Shabbat, holiday services, educational events since mid-March. And we plan to continue to do so throughout the summer and likely throughout the coming year, regardless of whether and when we are able to reopen and to be together physically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. We appreciate the update. And now I'd like to ask Rabbi Shlomo Rothstein from Vanderbilt Chabad to give us an update, please.
Thank you, Eric. And it is so wonderful to see the community come together and support each other through this difficult time. It all began for us Monday night, March 9th, Purim. We're expecting a nice Purim event, and Vanderbilt sent out an email saying no students should go anywhere, and everyone take COVID very seriously. Since then, like everyone else, we had to reimagine what we're going to do and how we're going to reach out with people, because as everyone knows, taking care of people is not just when they can come to you, but it's all about them. And we quickly moved to delivering packages of Shabbat, challahs and grape juice and insights, Dvar Torahs, different student groups were around campus, different pockets of friends. That moved on to Pesach, where we were able to provide over 50 students were still on campus, stranded. They weren't able to go home because of risk factor, with a Pesach Seder, when information how to lead one themselves. And that moved on to graduation as well. We did a few small graduation events across campus, and different departments and places socially distant, but for pockets of friends. And no one knows what's going to happen. Vanderbilt is trying very hard to open with strong guidelines, and what exactly student life will look like, we don't know right now, and probably won't know until it actually happens. Based on this model that we've been using in the past, we are planning on working with students to create a whole array of mini programs for friend groups, so people can create events and programs for those that are comfortable getting together. And then over the summer, of course, as Ari mentioned earlier, students are away from each other, they're away from school. It's very isolating. So we're doing all that we can to keep students connected to Judaism, to each other. We have a weekly Torah class. We have calls. We've arranged some interesting speakers to bring people together and allow people to sharpen their mind, or just for interest and for fun. And we're praying and we're hopeful that these new times and our new efforts will bear new fruits, and that we'll all be able to look back and say the hard work we put into during this time, instead of just taking a break, was well worth it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, Rabbi. So you've now heard from the representatives from each of our congregations and our agencies, and many of you may have also been on the Zoom last night to be able to see the Federation annual meeting, and you heard Federation as convener of our community, and our president, Steve Hirsch, and myself spoke and gave updates to the community. Now we have an opportunity to answer some questions. We had a couple of questions that were posted in advance, and we also have folks who are on the live stream watching on YouTube who could pose questions in the chat on YouTube. So if you have a question and you're watching on YouTube, please consider posting a question in the chat. In the meantime, let me get started by asking one of the questions which was submitted in advance. The question reads, I am a member of the Nashville Jewish community who has an autoimmune condition and is medically vulnerable in this coronavirus era. I have thoroughly enjoyed and appreciated the online offerings that the Federation, the Gordon JCC, and many congregations have had. I do not plan to join in-person events for many months to come, even if Nashville is opening and others are going out. Will the online programs continue? I hope so. I would hate to be the only one not able to attend because of my medical situation, one I can forget about when attending programs virtually. So I want to thank very much the member of our community who submitted that question. And I'll start first of all by answering on behalf of the Federation, which is to say that we intend to continue offering virtual programs. And one of the things that we're looking into right now is the technology to allow programs to be both virtual and in person, so that people who do feel that they can meet in person, whether for a program or an event or a meeting, could do so in person and also have the online option available. So we're very much exploring this and want to make members of our community all be able to participate and feel comfortable doing so, whether they can be in person or online. So allow me to pose the question to our panelists and ask whether there's anyone on our panel who would like to also respond if they've thought about this question as well.
Several have asked this question, especially there are new people in outlying communities like in Manchester and people that are too far to come here regularly. And we responded to them here at Chabad that we plan to continue. It might be a modified version, not as many as we're doing now, but it really depends on the interest of people, but we will definitely plan to keep this going, as we've seen that there's a whole new demographics of Jewish people that have not been coming regularly or have never been involved before, that it's a great opportunity to nourish them Jewishly beyond, hopefully, post-Corona era.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Tachtel. We now have a question that was submitted through the live feed, and this is going to be a question which is being asked of Leslie Sachs at the Gordon Jewish Community Center. The question for Leslie is, are members wearing face masks or face coverings while exercising? This person is wondering if that interferes with the increased breathing during aerobic exercise, which also could be transmitting the virus to a greater extent. So Leslie, if you could answer the question, talk about people who are exercising or working out and whether they're also wearing face masks as well. Thank you.
So members wear face masks to the fitness center and around the building. They do not wear them in the fitness center. The research shows that even with heavy respiration, that a 10-foot distance is adequate, so that we have spaced everything out 10 feet rather than 6 feet in that fitness center. So some of our equipment is not available. It's spread out over multiple rooms now. And that's one reason we haven't offered group exercise classes that are more cardio based as well. In the outdoor pool, it's also recommended that you do not wear it while you're in the mask while you're in the pool, and it's recommended that it's not necessary when you're outside. So around the outdoor pool, they are not wearing as well, but we're encouraging social distancing.
You don't have them wearing scuba masks?
We do have one swimmer wearing scuba masks that caused some controversy yesterday, but they are allowed to wear them.
Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate the information. Our next question is posed for Pam Kellner at Jewish Family Service. And the question this person is asking in the chat is, what volunteer needs are there specifically which Jewish Family Service would seek help from the community? So if we could ask Pam to talk about what volunteer needs there are at JFS, I'd appreciate that very much.
Okay, thank you for asking. And that is one thing that I didn't mention, is the amount of volunteerism during this has been unbelievably inspirational. There are a couple of opportunities for volunteers. And if you are interested, they would all go to Anna Sir, who is our coordinator of all of our senior services. So one of them is making these telephone reassurance calls. You and the senior will decide how often that you want that to look like. Usually at least once or twice a week. Anna does help you with scripts, but usually it's just a lovely conversation about whatever you want to talk about. We also have our Pen Pal program, where if you're into letter writing, it's a lost art and people are rediscovering it. If you have a child, it's especially meaningful. They can draw pictures and send it to the senior. We are now starting these porch visits again, outside, very safe, socially distanced. So these are the things that are COVID related types of volunteer opportunities. We also have things that we've always had, or actually one new program is our Javier Mentor program, where we match an adult with a child being raised with some extra needs for extra support. But these are the COVID related volunteer opportunities, and we welcome anybody that wants to volunteer. It's been especially meaningful for both the volunteers as well as our senior population. So thank you for asking.
You're welcome. Thank you, Pam. We appreciate your answer. So we have some more questions that are coming through the chat. I will mention also that if people are interested in volunteer opportunities, such as those that Pam just described, that the volunteer portal, which can be accessed through the Federation website, will list a multitude of volunteer opportunities. So please be sure to visit that volunteer portal on the Federation website if you're interested in volunteer opportunities. Now, another question, which is in the chat, is for the congregations that have started in-person programming. There was a question about whether people are wearing masks while praying outside, and especially while singing. And so I know a couple of congregations have talked about starting services, and some of which are outside, some of which are inside. So if we could have a response which talks about whether those congregations that have started services are asking congregants to wear masks and to do so while praying outside, especially while singing, that would be of interest to the question from the chat and the live stream.
Sure. I can respond if you like.
Thank you, Rabbi Saul. Please go ahead.
The reason I'm wearing a mask actually is that service is going on right now. And our protocol allows the service leader, if they're in the front of the room, socially distant and nobody near them in the front, they're allowed to remove their masks for singing or for chanting services. And that same protocol applies inside and outside. So everyone else keeps their masks on, but if the prayer leader is in the front, they're allowed to remove their masks.
Thank you, Rabbi Saul, for answering that question. Now we have another question which was submitted in advance. And this question refers to a matter relating to social action and to Tikkun Olam. And this question is in response to the fact, as many of us have followed and know on a firsthand basis, there have been a number of protests, and there's been a lot of activity on social media following the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And there's a question about trying to help understand the movement of those people who are protesting and what are they seeking, and how do we in the Jewish community, and particularly within our congregations, respond to this as an opportunity for social action, social justice, and Tikkun Olam. So I would ask if there's one of the rabbis who'd like to speak to this question. Okay, we are going to come back to that question unless perhaps Rabbi Shifton, there was a question, as you may have just heard me asking, with regard for talking about understanding the social action or social justice, Tikkun Olam aspects of the current protests and social media posts that have been occurring since the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and how are the congregations particularly understanding this and want to engage in this as it relates to our Jewish community. Would you care to speak to that?
Yeah, and the answer is we're trying to figure it out, quite frankly. The temple is involved in a number of interfaith associations, ecumenical dialogues, honest discussions with clergy and with our members who are Jews of color. And we actually had a lunch with the rabbi today with one of our congregants, Marcus Whitney, who did not like what I had to say in an email to the congregation regarding what happens when protests, civil, nonviolent disobedience becomes more than that and involves violent actions and looting and the like. And he was really objecting to two things that I had said. One was conflating the justifiable peaceful protests with random acts of destruction and not taking enough diligence to separate out the two and the two groups. But the other larger issue was his voicing the frustration with what it is like to be an African American in the United States of America in 2020 and still have to deal with the fact that as a Black man, as a Black person, he is viewed by others, including members of law enforcement, as an expendable human life, as less than fully human. It was an incredibly powerful hour for the 100 people or so who attended. And the most important thing we can do in a matter of social justice is to not just speak out and find our voice, but there is a difference between being silent, which we do not condone, and taking the time to listen to what members of the Black community, including our own, have to say. And, needless to say, for Jews who feel like they own the market of persecution and discrimination, the fact of the matter is that on any given day, we appear more visually like other members of the white community than those people who are Black and who, on a sheer immediate visual image, can be actively discriminated against. So we spent an hour doing something that is very hard for Jews to do, which is not to talk, but to listen. And as hard as it is for members of the Jewish community, it's even more difficult for members of the Jewish clergy to stop talking and to listen. So that is the immediate answer. And beyond that answer, we're trying to figure out a way for Jewish clergy, along with non-Jewish white clergy, to figure out a way to show our support for the Black community. And that, whether that morphs or coalesces into a march or a rally or an assembly, I don't know, but that would be a logical next step as well.
Thank you, Rabbi Shifton. I appreciate that answer. So we have another question. This is in the chat, and I'm going to ask Rabbi Kulik from West End Synagogue to address the following question, which is, how are congregations navigating the different approaches and some would say beliefs of congregants about the right way or the best way to deal with COVID-19, understanding that clearly there are many differences of opinion as to how to handle this situation. And so I'd like Rabbi Kulik, if you would, to speak about the difference in the approaches and how to navigate that when you have congregants who have different views as to the right way, quote unquote, to deal with COVID-19. Rabbi Kulik?
Yes, happy to address that. And thank you for the question. I think that one way that is working for us, at least, is to try to be driven by data instead of anything else. In a country that seems to be prone to politicizing everything, like from wearing a mask or doing whatever else, our approach is to pay attention to the numbers, to listen to the experts, and if we need to err, we prefer to err on the side of the precaution. So we are understanding and we are listening to the voices of everyone. In our particular case, I sent an email a week ago asking people if they were ready or not to come back, just to know where everyone is standing. So it's not about the vocal people asking to remain open or to remain closed, but to hearing from everyone. And based upon the feedback that we have and based upon the numbers here in the city and the state, we are bringing physicians together and lawyers and people who are committed to the congregation, and we are looking for ways to do something that will be mindful of those who are feeling lonely and would be willing to come back, taking every possible precaution, but also the risks and making sure that we are not rushing just because. And so again, what's the best thing is listening to people, checking the data, and driving what needs to be done, not on politics, but on smart policies.
Thank you, Rabbi Kulik. Appreciate your answer very much. So we have another question which has been posed, and this question I think can best be answered by Pam Kellner from Jewish Family Service. The question is, how is the person who needs assistance to know that the dignity of the individual will be maintained when coming forward to seek assistance? And as this is a question which I believe Jewish Family Service has been accustomed to answering, I think that, Pam, you're in a very good position to be the one to answer the question, if you would, please.
Sure. And actually, I really appreciate that somebody took the time to ask this question, because it's a challenge that we face on a normal day. And in these days, it's even more challenging for people who have never had to ask for assistance. Many people are in situations that they've never been in before. And it's very, very humbling. We've had people call us that have never had to ask for assistance before, and they walk out of that experience feeling whole and feeling dignified and feeling supported. And there really should be no shame in asking for help. And it really is, it's something that we face all the time. It really is a challenge for people to come and ask for help. But please know that these are social workers. This is their job. and they will treat you with the utmost dignity. And, you know, just call, please. And let me know if you don't experience that.
Thank you, Pam. That's very important to hear. And I hope that anyone who's considering seeking help is in a position of any form of need, that they really hear the words that you just said and really appreciate and understand that the dignity of the individual will be maintained, as well as, of course, the confidentiality of anyone who is seeking assistance. That is very much
appreciated. Can I just add one thing, just to that for 1 second, please? Sorry.
Please.
And we look at somebody holistically, not just as a one person, as a whole family unit. What other things, what might you need? You might be calling just for food as an entry point, but there may be other underlying things that you may need help with. I only mentioned, I think, you know, financial assistance, senior services, and counseling. We have 18 different programs and services at Jewish Family Service, and we look at you as a holistic being. So we may say, you know, even though you called for food, this other program may be helpful to you. Or did you know about this other program in Nashville that isn't Jewish, but might be helpful to you? So please call, and we can refer you to other programs and services that if we don't do it ourselves.
Thank you, Pam. I very much appreciate your adding those words. And just to make sure everybody is aware that the Jewish Federation and Jewish Foundation, Nashville and Middle Tennessee, at the very beginning of this crisis back in March, opened the COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund, and specifically did so in order to create a source of funding to provide a basket of wraparound services for people in need. And that includes everything that Pam just described, the Jewish Family Service can offer, and scholarships for early childhood at the Jewish Community Center and the congregations, and scholarships for Akiva, Jewish school and Jewish day school. And so we want people in the community who have need to know that there are resources and that they can come forward. So as we wrap up this evening's community town hall, I want to thank all the panelists, and it is wonderful to have representation from all 5 of our congregations, all 4 of our agencies, and the community organizations who serve our community. We, in fact, are very fortunate to be able to assemble this group, and I hope that everybody who was watching online and those who put in questions in the chat on YouTube, and even if you didn't put a question in the chat, that you realize that all of the folks who are on this panel are available and interested to talk to you. If you have a question, you can reach out to any single one of us, and we'll be very glad to talk to you. And we are here for you, for the community. So I want to thank all of our panelists. I want to thank everybody who was watching online. And as we promised, we're going to wrap up in under an hour. We have done it in 58 minutes. So I thank everybody for your participation, and I hope everybody has a healthy and safe evening.